during worship, I just saw a vision of the fire of God just coming into this place and turning the ordinary into the extraordinary. It's the fire of God that comes and sets us apart to the supernatural, that sets us apart to the holiness of God. And the fire of God comes and rests upon the absolute ordinary and turns it extraordinary. When the fire of God appeared to Moses in a burning bush, there was nothing extraordinary about that bush. It was a common desert shrub, ordinary, looked the same as every other bush. But it became holy ground. It became a place where Moses had to take his sandals off his feet. It became sacred because the fire of God rested on it. And the voice of God spoke through it, and the ordinary became extraordinary. And that became a meeting place, a commissioning place, a place of the fire of God, because the fire of God, the extraordinary, rested upon the ordinary. And when God came on the mountain, and what we know as the mountain of God, when the fire came down, and it says the whole mountain shook, so the people were afraid to even go near the mountain because God rested on the mountain. That was an ordinary mountain. It had been there for years. From the beginning of time, it had not been known as the mountain of God, an ordinary mountain. But it became an extraordinary mountain because God came with his fire, and a stormy fire. I'm not just talking a little touch, but I mean a stormy, fiery dwelling place of God. Darkness and cloud and fire and rumblings and thunder. And I saw that coming of fire right into this place to rest, and it turns the ordinary, an ordinary meeting all of a sudden becomes extraordinary. And it turns an ordinary man or woman totally extraordinary. And a man or woman of God is nothing but a man or a woman. They're exactly the same as every other one. Flesh and blood, same struggles, same temptations, same trials. What turns them extraordinary is the extraordinary God comes and rests on a very ordinary person. And all of a sudden everything changes. And I just saw a storm batting. I was sitting there, and I can feel it. That storm's coming. We're in a meeting before where just a tornado of God came into the place and just tore off the roof, and healings. And I could feel that drawing near into this meeting, this coming of God. And I saw two things: just the bigness of God, like coming on the mountain, and this becoming like a mountain of God. This place becoming like a mountain of God. God dwells in a thicker, greater way in strong fire and glory. Just extraordinary signs and wonders, extraordinary miracles. It says that God did extraordinary miracles through Paul. That means there's even ordinary miracles and there's extraordinary miracles. And I saw that God was going to do the extraordinary through ordinary people. The extraordinary was going to start to take place. Extraordinary miracles, extraordinary grace. But I also saw that just on you and the young and the old and the men and the women, the very ordinary people with the same temptations and struggles, that the thing that was going to mark you is just this dwelling of the fiery presence of God's love on your life. And extraordinary things would start to take place around you because of that presence of God. And I just wanted to pray just to invite that fire of God to come and rest, both corporally in this place in a greater way. And I'm just going to turn into the holy. And holy means other. Holy is like, this is other. This is other than normal. This is somewhere we've never been before. This is holy. This is something I've never felt before. This is something extraordinary. And God was going to put that on you. And you would become marked by his holiness, not by moral striving, but just by extraordinary grace coming on your lives. And things where you felt temptations and struggles would disappear because the extraordinary presence of God would be on your life. So if you feel that, just to receive that grace, just lift your hands up to heaven. Oh, la shana ishke. Inashka na ishne eneyata anashke eneyata nash eneyata. Eneyana ishkene aliant anashko yandaya. Eneya aneyashkene ishki anataya. Eye has not seen and ear has not heard what God has prepared for those who love him. God, you have prepared a visitation for this place. God, you have prepared a visitation of grace. God, you have prepared a fire, a spirit of burning to come and rest on this mountain of God. We are asking for a double portion of fire, God. We are asking for a spirit of burning. God, an ordinary people. We're very ordinary, God. We're very ordinary, God. But would you come and rest upon this place and rest upon these people with your presence, God. With your fire, God. With your fire, would you make us holy? God, we are just sinful people saved by your grace, but you make us holy by your Spirit. Come, Lord, with a fresh baptism of fire. Come and rest on this place with grace, with grace. And I just hear that word grace. Great grace, great fire, great burning, great holiness, great extraordinary miracles, but great grace. Don't be afraid to come and stand in the fire. Don't be afraid. It says Moses saw the strange sight and he drew near the fire and he stood, and I feel like God's saying, come and stand in the fire. Come up higher. Come into the spirit of burning. Come up deeper. Come into the holy. Come into the other realm. There's an opening tonight in worship and through this night where God is ushering his presence in a greater way, but he's also inviting you to come into a higher place of grace. He's calling you into a closer place of standing in the fire of the furnace of the Father's love and great grace. And I prophesy that struggles that you've had, temptations that you've had, depressions that you've had, addictions that you've had, just because you came and stood in the fire, not by striving, not by earning, that you just came and stood and you won't even realize that it left you, but you walk out and you go, I feel different. That's what holy means, different. I feel different. I don't know what happened. Something feels different. I don't feel the same. And it's because you've stood near the flame and it turned the ordinary extraordinary. So come. The Lord calls you to come and stand before him. Our God is a consuming fire, and fire is going to mark this place, and fire is going to mark your lives. Healing and holiness, but a different kind of holiness, a beautiful holiness. So again, just lift your hands and just say, we receive that, Lord. We receive the grace of your fire, the grace of your holiness, the grace of the extraordinary of your healing.